Brilliant. Okay, welcome to everybody that's catching the replay. Welcome to everybody live in the room. We're just starting off with some paper. I like to use big paper, so if you've got any to hand, great. If you've got a couple of sheets of a notebook that you can open up, brilliant. Reorganize my Sharpie pens, so I've got those ready to go. And we're going to delve into the topic of money mindset on Substack, which I'm so excited to do. It's such a huge topic. And it's such a huge topic in relation to Substack as well. And this is why I wanted to just niche on into it. We have talked about going paid and sustaining a paid model on Substack before, but that changes all of the time. So this is really a catch up. We'll cover some of the things we've covered before, but we're going to just delve in and relate money mindset to you personally and your Substack and what you're feeling as regards your Substack. So does anyone want to kind of kick us off by jumping into what we think of when we think about money mindset? So our mindset on money. Does anyone want to talk? Does anyone want to put in the chat? You can be now putting your Substack URLs in the chat if you'd like to introduce yourself. If you can go on mute, it just helps for the recording as well. You're welcome to your cameras on or off, completely up to you. However you want to be is fine. You're so welcome. If you need to leave early, also fine. So yeah, my first question is, what do we think about when we think about our mindset on money when it comes to Substack? Like, what is that? Like, what does that mean? What does it throw up for us? Is it a clear enough question? Tanya's going to speak. Hi, Tanya.
Hello.
Welcome.
Oh my
Welcome.
gosh, it's my first Sparkle workshop.
Welcome to Sparkle
I
Club.
know. It's been
It's nice here. I think you'll like it.
a long time waiting. So thank you. Lovely to meet everyone. I think it's all about value. How do we value ourselves? And the fear of that, of whether or not we're able to deliver and how to over deliver and match expectations as well on what we're providing for our audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And we talk about value quite a lot, don't we? Because one of the things that we've talked about in terms of whether somebody is going to cross the paywall threshold, become a paid subscriber, become a member, is a question of whether they value what is behind that paywall, whether they think that is valuable to them, whether it's educational, inspirational, whether it's a valuable community, whether it's something that they want to do for themselves. So I think we need to kind of, yes, definitely explore value within this framework of money mindset. In relation to Substack and the way Substack set up what is possible in terms of their tiers. So we've got the monthly, we've got the annual, we've got the founding member. We've got 3 different places where we can put an amount of money. Does anyone have anything to say on that? Either what you do, what you've seen others do, what you feel about it. You can chat in the chat box or you can talk if you want to talk. Hi, Raj. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
I think what's interesting is I had no paywall on my Substack for 8 months, about 8, 9 months, and I experimented with bringing one in. And the interesting thing was that it changed quite a lot my perception of what I felt I needed to deliver. So my thinking was, okay, I'm kind of putting a lot of work into this, and I believe in creatives being paid, and that I wanted to sort of also kind of acknowledge that a lot of creators, visual artists and illustrators, that's the space I'm in, are it's normalized to have those payments on Patreon, so people kind of expect it, and the sort of bringing that space into Substack for a lot of us still feels quite new when you're working in the visual creative space, and so I think there's a different expectation of what's perceived as value here versus on other platforms. That's something that I'm aware of, because it's quite normal for people to pay sort of like, say, a 5 or 6 quid a month on Patreon and expect maybe 1 video, 2 videos, a couple of posts, not too much. What I found here is that the perception of what you're delivering versus what you're asking for people seems to be a lot bigger. And a lot of people, I've only been going paid for say 4 months, and my free subscribers are over 700, and I've got maybe 10 paid, which I'm really happy with. But it's interesting to see what the flow has been. Like, people come and people go, which again I know is normal, but a lot of the reasons have been price, and my price is like 6 quid. So it's interesting that I'm seeing that people are perceiving the price an issue versus what value they're perceiving to get. Yeah, that's something that I'm finding actually quite challenging at the moment on Substack, because part of me feels like, oh, maybe I should just scrap the paywall and go back to not worrying about value and just put out what feels good, and not put out like, oh, is this kind of like a paywall thing, or is this a free thing? So yeah, that's kind of something I'm experiencing at the moment, because I've just been experimenting with both.
And there's something in that, isn't there, that trajectory of our free subscribers growing alongside our paid subscribers. So if you're relatively new to Substack, or if you've not heard this before, Substack will tell you anywhere between 1% and 10% of your subscribers might choose to go paid. That's quite a big percentage, but the upper is 10%. So if you've got 700 there, then, you know, you can easily do that sum. You can be like, okay, whereabouts am I in that percentage? Is that on the higher side or on the lower side that Substack would say is normal? They say high is between 3 and 10%. So anywhere between 1 to 10% is normal, and 3 and 10 is, yeah, good. Good. However, within that, we then have to, as creators and writers and people that are publication owners, decide what that energy feels like in terms of the monthlies coming in and out, because that is an option and that's there. And then the annual. So that commitment to, okay, I'm here for a year, I'm supporting this writer for a year, I'm supporting this creative for a year. And it feels different to do that than it does to sort of jump in to read something or jump in to be part of something and jump out again. We have to know how we want to manage that and how we want to connect to that energy. And then we will talk a little bit about founding memberships today as well, because that's the other place. And usually on Substack, it's the place that people sort of, oh, I'll just put that. I don't know. I'll put a thing. That'll be all right. And a lot of it is guesswork, and a lot of it is curious. And when somebody pays, you know, for the first time or at founding member level, it's always a bit of a shock and a surprise. And you kind of go, okay, this is happening now. Like, now I'm going to deliver what I've set out that I thought I would want to deliver for founding members. So and there is some distance between monthly paid and annual paid, because we're offering the same. You can't differentiate, for those of you that don't know, you can't differentiate, okay, if this person's paying monthly, they get X, Y, and Z. And if this person pays annually, the only thing that you can do is obviously spread out what you're delivering over that year. So someone who jumps in for a monthly, say it's £6 or £10, can access everything that you've set for paid subscribers. So the person that pays £70 for the year can also access that. So where is the value in that? Like, how are we feeling about if someone, and I've seen lots about this in notes, and this is why I wanted to bring it up with you guys. How are we feeling about the person that jumps in, maybe reads quite a lot of our stuff or participates or watches some replays or whatever it is that we've set out, and then dips out again? How do we feel? Is that okay? Do we feel okay about it? Does anybody want to talk to that point?
Yeah, I'll pick that one up, because
Thanks, Kate.
I'm quite a new Substack. I started it in early January, or right at the start of January, and I've had my first like unsubscribe from paid, which obviously I know is what happens, but it did make me feel kind of like, oh, you know, have I done something? I don't really know why that's happened. But of course it's inevitable and I'm not going to know, but it is interesting that I thought I'd be kind of fine about it if that happened, and it has happened, and I'm like, oh no, what did I do wrong? So it does feel a bit like that. I'm definitely glad of the people who have committed to an annual subscription, and I even lowered my price for that, you know, to try and, it was like 30% discount on the monthly in order to try and entice people to do the annual.
And so that feeling when that person disappeared off, you know how they can kind of tick a box to say the reason that they'd decided not to pay. Did you go in and read that, or did you decide not to?
I did go and have a look, and they haven't written anything. So maybe that they tried a free trial, maybe, or you know, it might be one of them, because I don't have any notifications for unsubscribes.
For sure, yeah, same.
Somebody has done it.
Yeah. And so that is really good advice from Kate, you know, just in terms of sometimes our energy is best spent serving the people that are with us rather than going into the analytics or trying to kind of work out why someone has left or decided to move on, because there are whole multitudes of reasons, both free and paid, why people decide to move on or decide to cancel. A lot of them are nothing to do with us or the value that they find in our content. So just as we're finding our way with this stuff, and I'll be really honest, I did look at the start and I don't look now. So I looked because I wanted to be analytical and I wanted to understand, is there a pattern in the reason people are giving? And now I'm so sure of what I want to do in both publications. I have just accepted that people will come and go and it's part of it. So rather than try and understand it or get deeper into it, I'm just trying to work with the people that are with me and try and understand what they want more of or less of, or how they want to be held. So that's a mindset shift. I think when I was looking at those reasons, and somebody subscribed as a paid subscriber and then left completely. I was like, I'm really upset that what has happened. And of course, like, who knows, you know, who knows, maybe she was just cleansing our digital space. Maybe it was a values clash. Maybe it doesn't matter, but it felt impossibly difficult at first. Impossibly difficult, because we have this public element of Substack where we're seeing a lot. You know, if we show up on Notes or if we send a post into the ether, that feels very public. It feels like the world. It's not the world really, but it feels like it. So there was something in the mindset work of understanding that people will come and go, and what I put out into the world, I feel there's enough value there for people to pay for an annual subscription. If they don't want to or they choose not to, that's also fine. And this was the big shift for me, because at the beginning, when I was having people kind of come in monthly and maybe stay for a couple of months or do whatever, that felt like a lot of energy dancing in and out. And I realized it's because I wanted to hold people in a smaller way, so a small group program and in one-to-ones. And I was trying to make the Substack membership that, and it can't be, because people are coming in and out all the time. So you do build obviously a rapport with your paid subscribers, but there's always going to be that churn rate and that kind of, yeah, that people coming and going and you feeling like, oh, I just had hold of everyone and now it feels different. So we have to be quite resilient in that, I think, and kind of play to the advantage of Substack, that more people will come than leave usually. And that has been a big trend around Substack growth and what's possible in Substack, which feels like a real gift. If we were marketing what we offer on Substack somewhere else off Substack, we wouldn't have this inbuilt growth engine. And that's what's really exciting. And that's what we can look to focus in on and kind of go, okay, we're going to learn lots about ourselves in terms of the business of running a publication. And we're going to learn a lot about what it means in terms of our own space, time, energy, and effort to be holding what we want to hold behind the paywall, as well as what we want to hold in front of the paywall, because they're two different things, aren't they? So let's do some journaling. We're going to go into, and I know you're going to be at different phases, but we're going to go into, first of all, the founding membership tier, because it's the hardest tier to wrap our head around. So for anybody that's relatively new in this space, usually monthlies can be anywhere between sort of, I don't know, like £5 to £10. Annuals might be, you know, 50, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, up to 100, within the writing space and the art space and the kind of holistic space. If you get into more topics around like business and finance and crypto, those monthlies are much, much higher, but we're just going to kind of focus in on this is roundabout what we all seem to charge. And then for founding memberships, they're anything from like £100 up to sort of 300, 350 a year. And all of these are subscriptions. So a person has to opt out. So when they sign up, they're signed up and they have to then decide to cancel at any tier. So let's get our paper and we're going to separate it into three. We're going to write paid monthly, paid annual, and founding member. And we're going to try and put what we think the worth is for our space. And if you don't know what you want to put behind the paywall yet, it doesn't matter, because we're just going to use it to try and unpack all of that and see what that is and see where we come back to. So I'll put this in the chat so everybody's really clear about what we're doing. But we're going to just hone in on, what do we feel is the value for monthly? What do we feel is the value for annuals? What do we feel is the value for founding members? Okay. Any questions, pop them in the chat. Okay, feel free to carry on for a few minutes, and I'm just going to walk you into Substack so we can have a look at that page that our subscribers will see. I really recommend that you visit the workshop around subscriber flow if you've not looked at that one yet. That's a really good companion workshop to this one. But let me share my screen and we'll head on over. Okay. Hopefully you can see that okay. So if you were to go to your publication and just put /subscribe, that's how you're going to get to this page, which is obviously how you've set up what your payments are going to be on Substack. We set all of this up in the dashboard, so in the writer settings dashboard. But if we wanted to just see it how somebody else would see it, I always think it's really good to sort of receive the energy the way that we've set it up. Quite often I'll spot typos as well. I do this. So we've got the monthly, when someone's making a choice around monthly, we've got the annual, which Substack obviously shows them how much it is per month. So they can then really quickly see the difference, the money that they would save if they ended up being signed up monthly for 12 months. And then it gives them the percentage at the bottom. So how much percentage it is. Now, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I don't know whether anyone's like, oh, well, that's a 28% saving, 28% saving or not. You know, I don't know. It really depends on how they're coming to it. And we know ourselves, don't we? So I always sign up annually, always, 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 because if I've been around someone's content for a long time and I've been really curious about what it might be like to be in the paid community, or to be in some of the paid workshops, or to be in that space where they write more intimately, I'm already like 100% committed and I just want to support them. So yes, my Substack subscriptions end up being expensive, but that's me and that's my thing. That's what I do. I want to just commit on a deep level and get into like some deep connection space with that particular writer and within that particular community. With this, so this is found in membership, so I call it Growth Library Access. And obviously in here, I do give people a lot more than I would in an annual. And the reason that I have it priced at that amount is because that is the amount that I charged for my 4-week Substack course when I launched it last year. And I felt like it was almost like giving somebody an online course, giving them access to the older posts and the audit that I do. So the pre-recorded audit that I do for people. And that just felt like a really good place to kind of position that, obviously taking off that Substack take 10% of fees as well. So you can change the name. It'll say found in membership here, something like that. You can change the name of this to anything that you want. Everybody has that feature rolled out now, so you can do that. So this is the choice someone's going to make. If someone knows you really well and has been hanging around and you've given them enough in front of the paywall to feel like they want to jump in to your founding member tier, your growth access library, or whatever it is that you want to offer them there, they will do, but it's really, really rare. That's what I'd say. So for me, but also for my colleagues, usually people are going to go into these two spaces. And actually for a whole year, I didn't have anybody jump into this tier. I was offering one-to-ones as part of this tier on my other publication and nobody jumped in. So I've turned it off there now. Oh, could somebody just go on mute? There's just a bit of noise on the line. So yeah, so when we see it like this, they do this thing where they cross out what the free subscribers won't get. So they're saying, don't choose free, it's the last one, and you don't really get anything if you choose free. I mean, it's not true. My free subscribers get the podcast. Obviously, they get it after paid subscribers, and they do get like quite a few posts a year where it is just a post, and I want to be of service to people who are subscribed for free. But Substack want people to pay. There are the options here. People don't really use these, but you know, you can join with somebody else, like probably relevant in my space. You can save quite a lot of money by doing that. You can gift a subscription to somebody else if you wanted to send them a birthday present. Probably more relevant for like Catherine May or someone than it is mine, but that's how it's all set out. So you can look at yours on your Substack and you can compare it to what you've written here and see if you feel there's anything missing. So see if when someone's landing here and trying to make a decision around whether they're going to pay or not, what do you think might be missing in terms of what you've journaled on the value piece? So for me, and I'll talk mine through with you, there were some really obvious differences between monthly and annual. And obviously I know founding really well, you know, I've set that up, I've been working with that a while. But there's another point that we need to hone in on, and that is noise and the funnel of subscriber flow. So we're going to do that next. But let me know before we do in the chat how that was for you all. What did you find out about your publications? If anybody wants to chat, you're really welcome. What did you find out about the value? Was there anything that you felt like, oh, maybe there should be more value? Maybe I'm giving too much. Like, how did it all feel doing that work? Let me know. You can write it in the chat, or you could talk if you want to. You're super welcome. Oh, hi, Caroline. Nice to see you.
Hi, Claire. Hi. I find myself wondering whether, I don't know if it's possible, but whether to switch off monthly. Although I haven't actually had people sort of doing a hit and run as such yet. I haven't got quite enough paying subscribers. But I have been thinking, you know, do I actually want to offer that at all? And what I need to investigate is whether it's possible to add extra value for annual rather than monthly, because I was thinking actually there is a nice way I can add value to my paying subscribers quite easily without extra cost to me. But yeah, so the question is, can we switch off monthly? Is it advisable to? I was looking at what the benefits are. It's an easier yes for some people. It spreads your cash flow. But like you, I'd prefer to concentrate on developing that relationship and developing that value that I offer over time.
So as far as I know, not at the moment, but this is why I charge considerably more usually per month. So with Sparkle, it was really difficult because I want to make it accessible. But at the same time, I was like, I want people to kind of spend time, because it takes time to learn Substack. It's not like you can just like, you know, just cram everything in a month. So it was really difficult to make that decision around monthly. But my only advice would be to make the monthly higher.
Right.
And then when people are looking at that, it's like, oh, well, I may as well go into annual, and that's where you want them to be. Some of my colleagues like the monthlies because monthlies come and go. And in terms of that cash flow, that's nice for them to see that money's coming into their bank account. Obviously, with Stripe, you get paid that annual fee up front. With monthlies, you get paid that monthly, so they can see how all of that is building, and that feels nice to them, and it feels like it's motivating. So again, it comes back to the mindset, doesn't it? How we want to be held. I must admit now I've stopped looking as to whether someone has joined monthly or annual, but I have the same thought as you. Can I do something where I say, here's this, and it's for annual subscribers? And the only way I could think of was if they emailed me and then I double checked that they'd signed up on an annual, and that felt like extra admin. So what I do is everybody gets the Get Creative on Substack masterclass, which I'm about to update tomorrow. I'm so excited. So it's been a year since I've recorded that masterclass. So everybody gets that. So it feels like if they're at the very beginning, that's really high value and I'm looking after them. And if they haven't got the money to stay longer, then it kind of speaks to that piece as well. But it's a balance. It's a real balance, isn't it?
It's a balance, yeah. I mean, I went with paying subscribers right from the start because I wanted to add extra value through monthly coaching. So, you know, at the moment, people pay £7 a month to get access to an hour of group coaching around mindset. And I don't know, I'm beginning to feel that it doesn't reflect the value, you know, that £7 a month. It perhaps isn't. It just sounds too easy come, easy go. So I need to really reflect on my pricing and look at who I'm going to be aiming that at. I think, you know, you can't look at pricing in isolation. Obviously, it's really valuable to do that, but I think I need to really review in terms of my ideal reader, my ideal subscriber, the community I'm trying to build, and the value.
Yes, for sure. And when we're talking about building our Substack business and building our business and how the two things cross over, that is the hardest for us as service providers to try and work out what that balance is, because the growth network on Substack is just on fire and brilliant. And we get new eyes on our work all of the time if we're doing the right things on Substack. That's amazing. That's really hard to do on social media. Although I did have a friend who had a reel go viral, which is absolutely insane. I'll just tell you really quickly. She got 140,000 new followers on Instagram overnight. She's a yoga teacher. She was like, oh, help. So that happened. However, for the most part, slow, sustainable, joyful growth is incremental, and it's both our co-creation with our subscribers and our paid subscribers, and yeah, what we're finding on Substack and what's possible. So yes, I think definitely look at it, because there is that bit when you first start where you don't know how many people, you know what the volume's going to be. So if your intention is for it to always be small group coaching, maybe that's a founding member tier. Maybe that's what they get for founding membership. And maybe the others is something else, you know, because if the volume went up, you know, and you ended up with 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 people turning up on calls, then the value goes down, because those people get less one-on-one with you. And what you're saying is you want them to have more, you know, you cherish that time with them. So it's there, isn't it? And if we, as well, I think it's really important if we lift this up and put it outside of Substack. And if we do want to run a membership, but it doesn't exist on Substack, does it look the same as this? You know, have we done some research around what other memberships in our niche or field are like? And are we trying to make something fit within Substack, or should we go back to writing? I mean, these are all huge questions. I'm not expecting you to answer them, but I do think that there's something with Substack where when I first joined, it was writing behind a paywall. That's all it was. And the first couple of videos were about how Substack works. And then from there, everything shifted and changed. You know, people were doing all sorts of video-based stuff behind the paywall, but the prices didn't go up, they went down. So, so I think there's a responsibility on us to feel embodied in what we're pricing, you know, and how we're doing this work. So that's what this is. I'm going to have a read of the chat, but I'll give you the next journaling prompt. So I've called it noise and the funnel. So if you imagine you're coming to Substack and you love someone's work and you're curious about paying for it, what are the barriers to paying for that work? Maybe it's around getting to know them more. Maybe it's around what you'll get when you cross over into that paywalled world. Maybe it's about your expectation of value. Maybe you've already got lots that you pay for, or lots of Substacks that you like to read, and you're not sure whether you've got time for another. So noise in the funnel is the journal prompt. I'll put it in the chat now. Okay, if you want to pop in the chat the sort of things that were coming up for you around noise in the funnel and that journal prompt, I'll just talk you through what came up for me. So what I've heard a lot is time and people's time and capacity, resistance and trust, social proof, decision overwhelm, and sometimes just that acceptance of that it can take somebody longer. Sometimes people just want to be in their own space of hearing their own thoughts. If we're reading lots and lots of work or we're in lots and lots of spaces, it gives us less time to do the work that we came to Substack to do, which is write and create and take up space. So those are the things that came up for me. I'd love to know what came up for you guys. There's a couple of questions around the supporter model. So obviously with paid subscriptions, we can just say, you know, support my work and I don't paywall anything. And literally that would be the action. You just don't paywall anything and you just send everything out to everyone. And that does work well for a lot of people, specifically where people are finding really high value. So Simon Hassel over at Footnotes and Tangents is a great example. He does slow read-alongs, reads War and Peace in a year. Lots of people are very enchanted by his space and his knowledge of the characters within the book, and it feels like it is not in competition with anything else. It's very unique and a really beautiful space. My husband's in it. I definitely haven't got capacity for that, but my husband does it. So yeah, things like that can work very well. It also can work for you to say, I don't know what I want this space to be yet, and so I've turned on paid and I'm going to try and work out what that is. I'm going to take you along for the journey. We'll see where we get to. You might also want to think about when you pause paid subscriptions, which you can do. So you can actually press a pause button. So that would pause monthlies. Annuals obviously would just get an extra bit added to the end. Or you can just be really upfront and say, you know, I take 8 weeks off writing a year, or I take 8 weeks off Substack a year, or however many weeks you want it to be, and just give people the indication of what you do and when and why you're taking downtime offline or why you're taking time out of your creative process. People understand that. And then it just gives them that container of what they're paying for versus what they get. So if people are looking to get a certain thing, like if you've said you're going to do 2 paid posts a month and then all of a sudden you disappear for a month, people are going to be kind of questioning and leaning into that. So yeah, and people, you know, people miss things. So repeating that. Okay, let's see what else you guys want to say. Unsubscribed to a few recently because I've just not had time to read them, not because I don't love their writing, I just don't have time. Nellie's saying, yeah, absolutely. And I've done the same thing. And I think this is the value piece. So there's certain writers that I can't ever imagine myself unsubscribing from, but I really love their work. And so, yeah, sometimes I don't get a chance to read it, but I don't feel I want to unsubscribe. And sometimes it feels things become noisy, not because of them, but because of where I'm at, or there's topics that I don't want to like read about. So sometimes because my husband has chronic health, I don't want to read chronic health pieces. Like it just feels I'm in it already. I don't want to read about it. It's too hard for me. So they could be the most beautiful writer in the world. They just mentioned chronic health and I'm like, oh no. Not always, but you know, sometimes I'm just giving that as an example. But yes, I think the way we come to Substack helps us to understand the way our readers come to Substack. And by readers, I mean readers who also have Substack publications. We've also got the readers that are just going to read an email and they're super happy doing that and they're not really interested in spending time on Substack the way we do. So Thea says, having enough headspace to read and engage with the posts each week and month. Kate says, time is my issue too. And don't have time to read them all for sure. This is actually this is coming up in my workshop tomorrow because there's something around the way that we spend our time in a workflow around reading being part of the work that we do, you know, and we can only read so many, can't we? We can only engage so much. So I think kind of knowing what that is for us and when we do it. So if it's like a weekend supplement or if it's an evening thing, I think getting really clear on when we do that. Great. So Jen's saying, pause a few subscriptions, giving myself a number each month and pay attention to when I can't read and then try and pay attention to how long it takes me to write every week. Yeah. So this is really helpful, hopefully for you all, just in terms of understanding what we're all experiencing. Substack is such a brand new way to be. It's a new engine for culture and we're in it, aren't we? So it is a new way to be. And I think we have to just give ourselves some space and grace around that. When we're trying to kind of get somebody's attention over to our paid community, that person, our person, is going to find us, you know, whether that takes them a month, 6 months, a year. Like, if our space is for them, they'll find us. So we don't have to feel like we've got to kind of aggressively tell them all the time, become paid, become paid. I mean, that does work for some people, and that's fine, but I'm just giving you the get out that people will find you and they will come over there. That will happen, as long as you're not putting out too much free content. That's the disclaimer. If you're putting out loads and loads of free stuff, they don't need to come over to paid. You know, they're getting so much value from your beautiful work that you're putting out. So it's really a balance piece. If the piece that you put out to free subscribers keeps talking and layering every time what is happening for paid subscribers, that is a great approach, because you're just reminding them, we've also got this, it's different, this is what we do, this is what we're up to, this is what's next, this is what's coming up. So they've had this really valuable experience with your free content. They've been able to read it, and you're reminding them. What I don't advocate for doing, and you can do it, you can definitely test it, is just sticking a paywall, you know, a paragraph into a piece. People are getting wise to it. I've said this before. They're scrolling in the app. If something says paid, they just delete it. You know, you're not getting eyes on your work that way, the way that you were before. You can still do it. You can still try it. You can still look at the conversions. There will still be people that come over. But for me, the shift that I've made is I want to write a piece for everybody. I genuinely want to write it. And I want to remind people that I've also got a membership here. So just to share my screen to show you, it's scuppered my plan a tiny bit, but I mean, we'll just go with it. Substack do this. So this is where you can see a preview of your post. Just take you back a step. Or just press done, that'll be easier. So here's a post. We've written our post. We've decided which section it's going to go into if we've got a section. And we've made sure that our author name is switched on. Please do not take this off, because this comes into the app and nobody knows who it's from. I've seen this happen so many times. Just leave that on. Don't take it off, leave it on. And then I've put in a paywall. So the way to put in a paywall is just to go here, and then obviously this button here, which I've already used, it's going to give you that option. So into more, into the drop down, and then into paywall. And then when we go to preview and we preview it for free subscribers, it's got a message here. Keep reading with a 7-day free trial. Subscribe to Sparkle on Substack to keep reading this post and get 7 days of free access to the full post archives. Now, I could put a whole post in front of that paywall, but because of the thing I've just mentioned about the app, I've got to be careful with that. That's all I'm saying. So when we're designing up our content, and whether it sits as a preview, whether it sits as a paid post, how it sits, remember that Substack can, you know, put all of this information in for you, but you can also put it in for yourself. So you can put it within the copy. You can make it really clear what, and remind people, because they forget what it is. You know, when they were here, they read it and they made a decision, but 6 months down the line, they don't know what you've got behind the paywall. They've forgotten. So you got to remind them. So Substack put that in, but also the weird thing that happened was, and I don't know whether this is going to happen when I refresh it, they also put something in that said, you can read this for free, like choose one post to read for free, which is a new feature that they've put on. Okay, they're not going to do it, but that's what they've done when I set it up for you. So I don't know. I think they decide how they want that to be. It's their growth engine. So at the moment, they're offering people a free trial because I've switched that on. You could switch that off if you don't want to have it on, but I've got it switched on for Sparkle. And yeah, before they were saying, read this post, unlock one of Claire's posts for free, or something like that, the language was. So the other thing to tell you about is that you can just send a post out to paid subscribers. So if you're sending it to everyone, it's going to tell you that the paywall is going to be removed. So if we wanted the paywall to be positioned where it is, then we just leave it on that it's for paid, but we tick that box to say, yes, send the preview out to free subscribers. And then obviously we've got the option as to whether we want to allow comments from only paid or no one in this case, because the paywall obviously is going to cut them off. So it's not going to be comments from everyone. So the two options are, and this is where we're going to go next. If you've got a post that you want to convert people into being a paid subscriber, but you're not putting a paywall into it, what are you going to write? If you've got a post that you're going to put a paywall into, what are you going to say before that paywall? Because that's a wall. Okay, so we've got that wall. What do we want to say? What is the invitation? Substack will put their bits in, which is based on what we've written in the back office. But what do we want to say? Do we want to say join a, however many community? Do we want to say join for monthly co-working sessions? Do we want to say 100 more posts behind the paywall, come and join us? Like what is the line if it was just one line? And the first question was, if it's a post without a paywall, how are we going to encourage people? And I'm going to go through this with you to upgrade to paid. If you put the subscribe button in on a normal post and someone is already subscribed, it will say upgrade to paid. There is no upgrade to paid button. So everybody gets confused with this. So let me just take you back a second because I want to show you that. Just, I'm always worried I'm just going to send one of these out. We'll do it in a minute. Hang on. I'll do the journaling first. So let me put that in the chat before we lose our thread, and then I'll show you that button. So a post without a paywall. What's the invite? And then a post with a paywall. What do we say for the paywall? I'm sorry that this is really hard and boring. And it is really hard and boring. It's just like, well, I don't know. You can repeat yourself. That's the beauty of it. But I just want to see if anything different comes out in your messaging in this journaling. So let's see what happens. Okay, I'll just move us on because I want to make sure you guys have a chance for questions at the end. So what came up for me to start with was a block. It's always a block because I'm still testing and adjusting what works. Like, and in terms of what works, what brings the most new paid subscribers over. So my goal with Sparkle is to try and keep around that 10% paid subscribers, because I feel like the value that I offer, it's possible to keep that. Over on Creatively Conscious, I really just want to hold space for people to go deeper with their creative practice. I don't mind how many people are there. That's just my intention. So there's not that same like numerical push. So when I was doing this piece, I was reminded that I want to give lots of value in my free posts and remind people of the value of being part of a community for accountability. I want to remind people they're super welcome, that it's not a noisy space, that there's time, that we've got time, that Substack's a long game, all those stuff. And then with the paywall, my language went more into immediate access to over 20 hours of tutorials, resources, and community. So it was like a faster paced ask. It was like, if you want to trip over now, you're going to get all of this, you know? So the language was different in the two spaces. There's just some nuance there, probably because it's me. But I'd love to know, did anything come up for you? Do you prefer one to another one? Did anything chime around what I said? Does anyone want to talk or put in the chat? You're super welcome. Seeing if anybody wants to chat or say hi. Okay.
Hi,
Oh,
I have
hi,
a quick
Jen.
question.
How are you?
Hi, good. I'm
Good.
good. So I just, because what you just said about how you realize that the value for you is keeping 10% paid subscribers and showing people that there is time, it's a long game, especially with the accountability. I feel like that's like a teaching moment right there, Claire. Right? To recognize that, because so much of the noise is about big numbers and making money and making it part-time or full-time. And I think letting people know that this is a place, and I'm thinking about this for myself, because what you said just resonated so much, that you have to figure out if you want to do Substack, or you want to write for yourself, or you want to create a body of work, or an audience of readers, that you have to understand the time commitment that works for you to do the quality of work that you want, and that the number has to match that, and it doesn't have to always be what you see everybody else doing, and that takes time to test and experiment with. And I think we don't talk about that enough.
Yeah, that's a really nice point, isn't it? And when I wrote that post around money mindset, I was really fired up about it. I really wanted to say, look, Emma Gannon has a 6-figure Substack. That's incredible. But are we all trying to do that? Like, are we?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that what we're doing here? Because it wasn't what I
Yeah.
was doing. Like, that's not why I came to this work. That just wasn't, I mean, maybe it's possible, lovely, but I don't know, not in a self-limiting belief way, just in a, I really don't think that's what I'm doing here. Like, that's not what I'm doing here right now. And I want to enjoy this journey and I want to enjoy this work. So yeah, I think knowing what you think you would like your percentage to be and then leaning into what it actually is, there's some space there, isn't there, to kind of go, okay, this is my personal growth trajectory. And then knowing how you want to invite people in and what you're inviting them into. I've been in a paid community and I joined because I thought it would be great in terms of networking. It's not, but I thought that, like, I've made that decision, so there's some, I could give that feedback, that maybe that person would be really interested in that. I don't know, but the value for me is in meeting other like-minded people, other creative women, other creative entrepreneurs, other people that are really passionate about writing and passionate about writing on Substack. So yeah, I think there's something really interesting, isn't there, in giving ourselves permission not to be in a race.
And just to add to that, so being on other Substack classes, like kind of like this, what I've noticed in the last, I'd say 3 or 4 months, with people who are doing really well and teaching a lot of great stuff, is often there's a disconnect between the question the person asks and the answer they get, because the person who's teaching is teaching what's working for them right now, and that's getting them great results, and that's what they know, and they're being really genuine in teaching that. But what I hear the person asking is like, that's like, I don't have the time to dedicate to a part-time or full-time thing. How do I make this work for me? The question really is, how do I take what you're showing me and make it work in the way that I have time and space and energy for? And so I've kind of noticed like, oh, well, you guys are sort of talking at odds, but I don't think you quite realize it yet.
Yeah, and that's the question around being creatively fulfilled, isn't it? Like, if
Mm,
it feels like, so if it feels like a job and a job that feels difficult, so we're putting a lot of pressure on our creativity, aren't
yeah,
we? You know,
yeah.
so the model when I first came to Substack was paid subscribers receive 2 paid posts a month, free subscribers receive 1. So already paid subscribers can see they get double what a free subscriber gets, but that's still 3 posts to read a month. You've got your free post that tries to convert people if that's what it's doing, and then 2 paid for posts. So again, back to this sort of how much content are we throwing at everybody, and what are we expecting people to do with that, you know? So if we want to be spacious in that, what is the invitation? Because there's always, and I think we need to get better at this, there's always a very unique invitation that is unique to our publication and unique to our space holding that we can offer.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so we're going to do some questions before we wrap up, but let me just speak to the point about the subscribe button. So please sign up for your own Substack with a different email address as a free subscriber. One, because receiving your own energy is difficult at first, and I want you to do that for your own personal growth. Like, honestly, when I was receiving my own emails, I was like, oh no, it's coming, I've scheduled it, it's arrived. And now I'm like, oh, look at that. So honestly, there's a journey to go on there. And also then you get to see what your free subscribers see, right? So you're going to see it exactly the same way. And you can use that preview tool that I've shown you, but maybe you use that once or twice and then you forget about it, whatever. You don't have to over sort of think it or be too perfectionist about it, but just receiving your own emails is a really, really positive thing to do. And I'm sorry about all the digital footprint, but it is a really positive personal growth tip. And then within that, when you add the subscribe button, all you need to do is add the subscribe button. And if somebody is reading on the Substack website or in the Substack app, it is going to say upgrade to paid. And from the upgrade to paid button, they go to that page that I showed you at the beginning, which is monthly, annual, or founding. If they are in email, it's slightly different. Sometimes it'll just say subscribed and there'll just be a tick. And then other times, you know, when you put paywalls in and stuff, Substack's going to give them that information below the paywall. But you can see all of that in the preview tool. So do that and then you'll see. But yes, do not do a custom button. You don't need to do a custom button for somebody to upgrade to paid. They're already going to see it like that. I screenshotted this for a friend because she was like, I just cannot find this button, Claire. And she's been on Substack ages. And this is the thing, isn't it? It's just sometimes until we've done it and we've practiced it, we're questioning. So please just ask if there's anything you want anyone in the Sparkle community to do, or if you want me to check something for you. I'm super happy to do that. We always have our Monday chat thread where you can ask questions and it's open all week. So, you know, if you don't get to it on Monday and you think of it on a Wednesday, just put it in. I'm online, I'm there. Okay, so we'll go over to general questions. What I'm going to do is I'll take one question and then I'm going to stop recording, simply because I want this to be a space where you can talk openly and vulnerably and not be recorded on the internet doing that. So we'll do one question that's for everybody that's catching up on the replay, and then we'll jump into any questions that anyone has got or any observations about how they feel about this topic or other topics that isn't recorded. So anybody got a question that they want to ask? It can be about this topic or it can just be about Substack more generally. And, you know, sometimes people catch me out and I'm like, I don't know, I'll have to go research it. But let me know if there's anything on your mind. Anything cropping up for anybody? You're so welcome if you want to ask anything. Okay, so Debbie is saying... So Debbie, you've sent that to me directly. Is it okay to read it out? I'm just double checking if it's okay to read this out. Oh, yes. Okay. So Debbie says, I have 2 groups of subscribers and one group seems uninterested in becoming paid subscribers. This is a group of 1,000 plus, which I imported over from MailChimp. Previously, they never paid me. Some have been getting my newsletter for 20 years. Wow, newsletter for 20 years. Is there a way to persuade them to become paid? My paid subs, I have about 65, and mostly from the Substack network. Yes. So there's a piece of work that we need to do for our readers off Substack, and this takes time. So we have to explain what Substack is and why we're using Substack, why we're passionate about using Substack, who else is on Substack, why they should download the Substack app, why they should read on an iPad, read on their phone, read on the website. There is a lot of different messaging to do around why Substack is a good place. Some of my messaging includes it's a space to listen to podcasts, to discover new writers, to support writers, to read long form, to be away from the noise of Instagram or TikTok or the other online spaces that try and lasso our eyeballs. There's a line I came up with recently. So there is some work to do around explaining what it is and why. And that's not going to go away quickly. You know, people are still, you know, Substack was started in 2017, you know, as a startup, yes, but it's been around a while. And even now, even when I share so genuinely and so excitedly the way I do, people are like, oh, another platform. I don't want to do another platform. People don't want to do another platform. What they do want to do is have some of their attention span back. What they do want to do is be around really sophisticated thinkers and writers and creatives and be inspired and be educated. So you've got to find your language around that. And it's not easy, but I do feel it's possible. And I do think it's about a targeted set of messages that build up over time. So on Creatively Conscious, which is my primary publication that I came to Substack with, I am still doing that work. I'm still talking to people. People are still WhatsApping me, friends that I've known for years, colleagues that I've known for years, going, do you think I should start a Substack? You know, I've been like literally talking about this for well over a year now. So it takes time, and knowing that there's a space for readers as well as writers on Substack is our first message, I think, like inviting them that you don't have to be a writer to be on Substack. You can enjoy it as a reader. It's a beautiful place. So I often think about my mum. So she probably could write if she set her mind to it. But she is so confused by Substack. She literally cannot wrap her head around it. She can do Instagram. She's had a Facebook for years. She does her email. She's great, but she cannot wrap her head around Substack. And I'm like, I don't understand. I thought it was quite easy. And then I get her to show me what she's doing. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I get it's not easy. It's not, they've not made it easy, and they've added more and more features to overwhelm people. So sorry that was long, but yes, a bit of work to do on that, I think. Okay, so Sarah's saying, how important is it that paid subs do read in the app versus get our paid content in their inbox so they could stay in the email system and pay us? Why would they be more likely to be paid if they've got the app? I think just the familiarity, this is what I'm picking up on, Sarah. So the familiarity of knowing Substack and knowing that there is a space for us in notes, in chat, in community. We're using it like a social media. So say if, so I've just recently joined Emma Gannon's paid community because I met her in real life and I really, really liked her. I listened to her talk. I thought she's got a lot of really wise stuff to say. And before that, I was like, I don't need to join our paid community. I'll just read her books. I haven't read her books yet. I'll do that first. I saw the value in being in that community because of the way she hosts it. So it was like an instant, oh, she's put an offer on. I'll go on and I'll do all of that. When people are doing that for the first time, they're like, wait, there's 4 different boxes. I can be free. So my mum, going back to my mum, was like, do I have to pay to read everybody's work? Like, what is this? Because they put the free on the far right and we're reading from left to right. So the first 3 things we see are asking us to pay. And so this is a big barrier for a lot of people. They're like, oh, I don't want to pay for people's work. That's not what we do. It's a new engine for culture. It's a new thing. It's brand new. And it's going to be brand new as we all shift and change and wrap our heads around it. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I think that yes, the value of staying in your little email bubble is totally fine, especially around paid work, like totally fine. And if you're sending out Zoom links, then obviously they click on that and they end up in a Zoom room. So it's really only if we're using chat or if we're wanting to network within communities and sort of show up in a more of a social media type way. Yeah. Okay, let me stop recording.